Urge. 94.9 The Urge. Hatfield's home for rock.
I'm Willie the Kid, and there's nothing you can do about it.
But I'm going to give it to you straight about Jason. His body was never recovered from the lake after he drowned.
Camp Crystal Lake is jinxed. It's got a death curse.
Some folks claim they've even seen him.
What are you doing on this mess?
The girl who survived that night at Camp Blood, that Friday the 13th, she claims she saw him.
Boy, is he dead too?
And he took his revenge. Jason's out there.
Yo, man, it's cool.
So what's up, everybody? Welcome to JEFFMAN316 Pop Culture Reporter Channel. I'm your host, as always, JEFFMAN316, and that sexy beast that's on the screen with me right there is the one and only, the Mad Cuban, Peter Anthony. How you doing, Peter?
Good, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so Peter is a writer, producer, director, soon to be an actor in another a trilogy that I saw you mention. So I appreciate him coming on the channel. This guy's super busy, but he's always a fun person to talk to about anything horror related, specifically Halloween and Friday the 13th, which is what we're doing here. And this is where we're going to rank the films from our least favorite to our most favorite. So yeah, Peter, I appreciate you coming on here tonight.
Thanks, man. It's a good Wednesday. What is today? Wednesday?
Thursday.
Bro. See?
Week's almost over.
I don't know.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you got a whirlwind. You got a lot of stuff going on before we dig into the into here. If you want to go ahead and mention, that's what we were talking about before we went on the air. You got so much going on. You want to talk about a little bit of that?
Yeah. So just chill's trying to work on behind the scenes. I have an editor working on behind the scenes, but it's really going to be, I think, my opinion, a lot better than most behind the scenes. It's really, really in depth and breakdowns of props and Easter eggs and interviews with everybody overlaced over what their performances are and behind the scene bloopers and stuff like that. Thanks, 80s Horror Man. And so that, then there's the new trilogy, which is actually going to be called Jason Voorhees. So it's by CCC Entertainment. They made a trilogy called The Shape with Michael. Mm-hmm. And normally people contact me, and I'm just like, oh, what do you want? Can you help you with your Indiegogo, or you want this or that? And they're like, no, we want you to act in it. And I was like, oh, wow. So, because it's normally not what I get. So I was pretty humbled by it. So, but I mean, I'm helping out with some other stuff just because I have such a plethora of like people that make stuff like masks for them and stuff like that. So they kind of go through it. And then they're asking about Indiegogo, but I'm pumped about it. I've read it, and man, I'm not giving stuff away. It's like a multiverse, and the way they wrote it, not only do they pull in Friday the 13th and Michael and Freddy, but they pull in other regular movies, not just horror movies from our past. Mm-hmm. That was pretty genius. So I got that. We got 3. I think I shoot in February. It's in Seattle. It's next to where we shot Rosebud and Vengeance.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I watched the pitch video that you guys were. I think you were on somebody's stream. I can't remember who it was, but you had them play the pitch video. So yeah, I was jazzed up after watching that. It was pretty cool. Yeah.
So I get to I'm like, I want to have, blue eyes, and I want to do this and this and that. And they're like, every time I want to look different, whether it was the big beard or the goatee that was white with the general, or the Vengeance when I had the little half thing. So I always want to look like a little bit different. So they're letting me do that, which is cool.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, and then
you're the man that's been fighting Jason in multiple movies, so they wanted to get the man in there. So
yeah, I'm 1 and 1.
Yeah.
Right? Wait, am I? No.
No, you
I'm 1 and 2. Sorry.
yeah. Yeah. So PR Movie Elite, appreciate you watching. I love Jason movie. What's up, everybody? And then, like you said, 80s Horror Man said part 6 and 7 are my favorite ones in the franchise. Well, you obviously know Pete here likes part 7.
Yeah.
And then you did an amazing job on directing and acting. Yeah, Roseblood's pretty amazing. Now, actually, that's obviously how you and I connected because of all the promotion and everything that was floating around on the internet around the time I started, doing live streams and stuff. So yeah, I love Roseblood.
My first award, the first Roseblood award ever, is the
Yeah.
Jeffy.
All right, and I appreciate you mentioning that online. That's pretty
I
cool.
put it on the poster.
Yeah, I know. I saved that. I told my wife, I said, Peter's such a good guy, and I was showing him that, and she said that she couldn't believe it. She said that's amazing. That he would just remember something like that. So,
and your award sits next to only one other award, which is the Lar Park Lincoln Award for me, which is amazing. So
yeah,
I'll never forget it.
And this is one of my guys in the comments on a lot of my videos. So he said, I love Jason Voorhees. Yeah, I think before we get into the ranking, I'll just let you know, as far as the horror icons, I love Michael Myers probably the most. And Halloween is my favorite. Jaws is my favorite movie, and Halloween is my second favorite. But if I've got to go to a go-to franchise where I need to relax and I want to pop in a horror movie, and it's something, sometimes you just want to watch one, your go-to movies. It's a lot of the time it's Friday the 13th. Because you and I told you right before we went on the air, they pretty much kept the core concept, most of the films, and the Halloween movies bounce around so much where they change, his background, what's going on with him, the cult and all that. I just like to keep it simple. Jason Voorhees, he's either alive or dead, or they obviously got the one where somebody's pretending to be him. But
right,
I just like Friday the 13th before they didn't care, and they just kept true to themselves. And and you expanded on that obviously in Roseblood, which is why
Halloween
I love that.
has the award for the best movie. I think 1 and 2 are phenomenal too,
Yep.
the original. But Friday the 13th, you can't touch the kills. Halloween cannot touch the kills. They tried to in Halloween Kills. They got a little better, but otherwise, not even close.
Yep. Peter did a good job in Vengeance movies and The Fall of Camp Blood.
Hey,
that was
thanks.
The one I was telling that I had planned on reviewing. But anybody watches this now or later, those are some excellent, some of the top-notch fan films out there. All the ones that Peter's been involved in. You got the Vengeance 1 and 2, Fall of Camp Blood.
I want you to do Fall of Camp Blood, man. I don't care when you do it. That'd be great.
Yeah, I'll do it. Like I said, I got about a week and a half off coming up here at the end of the year, so I'm planning on catching up on all that kind of stuff. But all right, without further ado, what I'm going to do is you're the guest. I'm going to let you go first. So we got 12 films. I won't try to keep you on here all night, so I'll curb a lot of my kind. But if it's something that I really, if you want to chime in of why you like it or you don't like it, you can throw it out there. So we'll start at the bottom, and we're going to do worst to our favorite. So which one do you deem as the worst?
I'll give the worst and give like a little paragraph on it.
Okay.
I got X the worst, and I know some people don't have it second to worst or whatever, but for me, it's by far the worst. I mean, it's if you look at it, it would cost $10 million to make it, and it only made $11 million. Something like insane. It was the lowest margin of profit ever for any movie. It's all shot in one studio scene. It's all the same room changed around, or 2 or 3 different rooms at most. It was just a joke. And people, this is my point on X. People always say, well, when I go back, it's a fun film. Yeah, it's a fun film now. But when you were watching the trilogy, the canon, and you got to that film, it wasn't fun for you. When they came out with Mighty Morphin Power Ranger fucking outfits and stuff like that, and made jokes and had the robot, and that wasn't funny then. Imagine now if 2024 they came out with a Jason that was like that, they would murder them. So that's my point. They talk about not.
Yeah, can you imagine they shit on Halloween Ends? Can you imagine what they would do to that?
Oh, I know.
Did that now?
And we talked about not making Jason a joke, and they made Jason 100% a joke in that film. So that was a huge letdown for me. So Jason X.
Well, surprisingly enough, I didn't pick that as my worst, but I'll tell you why when we get to it. But my least favorite is Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday. And I will give it credit because it does have a few good things in it. The opening scene is pretty amazing because I went to see it in the theater and I was totally shocked when they blew him apart. But then I was like, well, fuck, I want Kane Hodder, in the movie more. And then surprisingly enough, you see him out of makeup in it. But just to me, that was the one that strayed so far from the concept. I mean, they try to throw Evil Dead shit in there with the Deadites and the book of
Necronomicon.
the Necronomicon and the knife and all that. And the ending is so cheesy with those hands coming up out of the ground. The only thing they tried to make cool was, Freddy's hand coming up at the end, but I don't even think they got Robert Englund to do the laugh or anything. It to me, it was like, we know this movie was shit, so we're going to try to throw something at the end to like polish
Yeah.
that turd a little bit. So I just remember going into the theater and coming out and being so pissed that they added all that new canon stuff. Now I will give them credit, like I said, and the character of the Duke is pretty cool, and you actually use that obviously. So you probably pulled one of the full, the one cool thing out of that movie that was had some staying power. But that was the reason I picked Jason Goes to Hell.
My number 11 is Jason Goes to Hell. And I hate saying it because I love Adam Marcus. He's a great guy, but you got to just tell the truth. I make movies. Some people don't like them. They tell me why they don't like them. It is what it is. There's so many things that are just off subject, but we'll just go with two of them. One, they spelled Voorhees wrong on the mailbox. I don't understand how the best friend of Sean Cunningham's son, and Sean Cunningham being a producer with 1 million editors and 1 million people on that, let that hit Final Cut is beyond my comprehension of mind. And then secondly, Jason with the homoerotic shaving. And this has nothing to do with him even being gay or not. Jason's not sexual. He's been around 1 million people having sex. He's been around people, naked chicks in the water, in the woods. He's not sexual. He would never be sexual like that. And it's just stupidly added. It made no sense whatsoever. And then, like you said, Kane not being in it, Kane grunting at the end, the whole thing. The only thing good, two things good about that movie, the kills were pretty awesome, and especially the extended one with the guy melting that they put in the Scream Factory, and the Duke. I thought the Duke, besides Tommy Jarvis, is probably the coolest character in Friday the 13th series.
Exactly.
So that's why I wanted to have him in the movie.
Didn't the uncut version of Jason Goes to Hell, is that the one the girl gets sliced in half in the tent?
Yes. That's in the movie too,
so,
but just a little more.
Yeah, but I think it's pretty extended. Like they show her split open more in it. So that's got a couple good kills, but that's about it to me. Right. So that was why I picked that. All right. Well, my number 11 is Friday the 13th Part 5, and I think it was because once again I was growing up, and the first movie that I saw at home I think was that. That was so I was so disappointed, when you got to the end and found out it wasn't Jason. I always joke and tell people, if there's a porn entry in the horror series, that's it, man. That movie was made for just to show naked tits and some decent kills. But it's got some of the stupidest characters in the whole franchise, and I don't even understand some of the scenes in it, like the guy that pulls up, and the girl's waiting in there and changing clothes, the waitress. It's just like they just find random moments just to show naked chicks. And I mean, that's cool and all, but everything seems out of place in that movie almost. Like, the pacing is bad. And I just think that they were like throwing something together, and they're like, oh, we fucked up. We killed, Jason off, and now we got to make up for it. So let's just throw a bunch of titties in there, and it'll distract everybody. So yeah, I was very disappointed in that. So that's why that's down at the bottom.
I agree with you. Having made movies now, very choppy. You could tell the scene with the guy Eddie with the girl with the tits is thrown in. You could tell that the road flare is just thrown in. Total different time, total different angles. It's just thrown. There's just kill counts. Yeah, I agree. My number 10 is number 5. I had it last for my whole life, but when you go back and look at the movie, it's actually a pretty decent movie. It might even be halfway up for me. If it was at Jason, I thought, if you go listen to the music, it's probably the second best music, third best music in the whole series.
Yeah.
I liked Reggie. I liked the Melanie Kinnerman. I liked Tommy was weird, but it was a good movie overall, more than like the crap ones at the bottom. But I'll never forgive you for doing that to Jason and lying to us. And I say this all the time. Well, Halloween 3, no, Halloween 3 never told you it was Michael. The Friday 13 tried to lie to you, and they didn't have to do that. He could have just been regular Jason. So that I'll never. You talk about leaving the movie theaters. I remember seeing that and being like, wow, it wasn't a movie theater. I think I was too young, but I was just like, what are they doing? And it just pissed me off. And that affected Part 6's sales so much because people were.
Yeah, I know. And I remember seeing it. I was like, such a bait and switch, like you just said about how people would react now. It's basically that's the Halloween ends of the franchise. Back then, everybody was the first 4 are so good. Yeah. Compared to that, and then you get to 5, and then you find out he's not in there. Yeah. So, all right. So my next one is so that would be my number 10 is Jason X. So there's so much there are a couple good kills in there. Like I love where he freezes the girl's face and smashes it. I actually kind of like Uber Jason or whatever everybody's calling him now. I thought it was kind of cool, you know, when they with the nanotechnology rebuilt him.
But you weren't
That was
scared of him.
no, it was
Right.
and I was big into Star Trek back in
Me
the
too.
day, especially Next Generation. So I laughed my ass off at the you know, holodeck, whatever you want to call it, where he went in there and killed the girls. And I
Right.
also thought that was probably a dig at them for cutting the sleeping bag scene so
Correct.
bad out of no, was that number 7? Was that
7.
in number 7? Yeah.
7.
And so yeah, I mean all of these, if you have good parts to them, but if you got to sit down like you said and watch a whole movie, it was a lot of boring parts, and there's just the fact that there's a couple random kills and there just wasn't enough to keep it interesting for me. I mean, it's probably always going to remain at the list. It was at the time I think everybody was going to space though. Even
Right.
the Leprechaun went to space,
Stupid.
so you
And
know
none of
they
them
had
worked.
to do it. Yeah,
None
I
of them
know.
worked.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so crazy. I can't imagine sitting in a meeting at like, you know, New Line or Paramount and be like, hey, we're
Thinking
going to
that.
put him in space. And you're like, are you fucking joking? That's a real thing?
Yeah.
You know?
So, hey Alfred, what's going on? Appreciate you joining in. He was talking about he plays that Friday the 13th game. So
Cool. What are we on, number 10?
5, 11, 10. It would be my next one would be my number 9. So you're number 9.
Okay. Jason Takes Manhattan. I like the look. I don't like, I take that back. I like the mask. I like the yellow mask and that look. I don't like his wet, squeegee, nasty, fucking slimy look. Another movie that's all over the place. You saw Boy Jason in the lake all weird when her uncle tried to drown her. That was weird. The Manhattan thing was cool. Jason on the boat was stupid. Jason in Toronto, wherever it was stupid. The worst reveal of a Jason face in the history of the series. They call it the jack-o'-lantern face. And then for him to spew water and then say mommy and then turn into a boy and then toxic waste kills him. What do you mean? He doesn't drown. He's already, it's the dumbest fucking thing I've ever fucking seen of all time. I think Kane saves it and the mask saves it. It also is the first time he starts to teleport, which I really don't like. Also, part 8.
Yeah. Actually, so that would be 12. Yep, that's my number 9. So Friday 13th, Jason Takes Manhattan. I remember seeing it in the theater, and obviously I was a bit let down because the one I saw in theater first was 6. So I saw 6, 7, and 8. I'm like you, why the hell is he still wet the whole movie?
Right.
I mean, because even after he got out of the water, he was on the boat for ages. So I just didn't understand back then why his suit was wet. Like you said, him in the mask, and there's a couple of iconic scenes. I really do love it. You know, when they the couple of in jokes they throw with him standing in front of the billboard with the hockey mask and him kicking the damn radio. I put that in that little intro, and then I thought all that there were some good moments, but it takes a lot more than that. It was just a lot of retread of the same shit.
Yeah.
And when they were on the boat, none of those kills on the boat were creative. There were people on the boat that died that you didn't even know what happened to them. They just assumed. I said it. So it was just lazy writing. And if Kane Hodder wasn't in it, it wouldn't be any good at all. Like you said, the mask was good. Like I do agree with you. It was terrible. And why he's spitting seawater or whatever, sewage, whatever the hell that is, out of his mouth at the end didn't make any sense. And the connection that girl had of why he would have been in the lake, and it didn't make any sense whatsoever. So yeah, I agree with you.
You know, it was cool though. I don't know if you saw the picture. Where was I? Monster Mania. I rehashed that picture with the radio with Kane, where I had the I Love New York shirt and the bandana and the knife. And Kane did. I go, hey, turn sideways and pick your fucking mask up. Oh yeah, okay, cool. And we did it. So I wanted to be a little different with that one.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. And the 80 Horror Man said, totally agree. The ending made no sense in part 8. They do that with a lot of the Friday 13 movies, where they'll give you great up until the very end, and then they do something to fuck them up. I'm gonna get Jason series. You got to get the whole series, man, to have them all. Yeah. So all right, what's your next one here?
My next one is Freddy vs. Jason. There wasn't a movie that I was more pumped up for to see than Freddy vs. Jason. You remember those trailers, man? They were
Oh yeah.
unbelievable. The shot on the top with the corn and the fire going through the corn maze and all that stuff. And Freddy, why won't he die? Like all that shit, man. I was like, what? Freddy like teleporting himself with the shadow with the glove. And you're like, wow, this is going to be like a part 3, Friday the 13th. This is going to be the shit. And then you realize no Kane. And then Jason was an absolute joke. To give him that fake rubbery dead eye, the metallic black skin. He walks like Frankenstein. The characters are probably the most forgettable in any of the movies. Part X, 9, and this one I think are the worst characters. I'm sorry, X 2009 and this one are like the most forgettable characters. It could have been so great, yet it wasn't. The fight scene at the end, even though it was Kill Billish, was still pretty awesome though to see.
Yeah, you and I were actually talking about that right before we come on here live, and we're talking about that this to me felt more like a Nightmare on Elm Street movie than a Friday the 13th movie. So actually, Freddy vs. Jason is my next one, and it's because of most of the stuff you said. That I like the fight at the end; that's good. But I mean, it was a lot of retreaded Nightmare on Elm Street cliches up until that point, and then, like you said, the him walking through the cornfield on fire was cool. But it just wasn't enough. And it was, like I said, to me, it just felt like a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. So if you're going to include that in this ranking, it's got to be pretty low just because of that. So,
right.
And then them fucking Kane Hodder over. It's got to stay low because of that.
Yeah. So my next one is 2009. And it's crazy because Derek Mears' performance was phenomenal. I always, I used to be an athlete and I used to play football, and people are always like, well, someone big and walking after you is scary. No. Someone big who can chase you down is fucking scary. Somebody 6'5", 265 who can run down like a linebacker and catch you, to me, is more scary. He's athletic. And you see that with him when he does the 2-hand overhead axe throw into the guy that he sets him up to lure him out, when he jumps off the roof and turns and does the eyeball kill. Derek Mears' look, his mask, I don't like the jacket, but everything else was phenomenal. The kills were phenomenal. It's just the story is so bland. You don't give a shit about any of the actors at all. Therefore, it doesn't work. Even when she gets the machete at the end, you're kind of like, do I care about that or not? But it didn't work. They almost got too cliche with it and forgot to tell the story. And the fact that Jason is like little bells, and he's got his little system, and he kidnaps a girl for like, what, a year? What is she, crapping her pants every day?
Been in there for a while, yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand. Yeah.
Well, I might piss off some purists, but my next one is the original Friday the 13th. And to me, is not as much of a slasher as the rest of them. It's kind of boring. It's almost like a whodunit type of thing. I know it's iconic, obviously, from the first one, but when you start watching some of these ones at the top of the list, and obviously, and Jason is the main protagonist, I mean, it's a little bit boring. I mean, in segments. And I think part of the reason that a lot of people have it at the top is just because, it's the first one in the franchise. But I've always said that there's a lot of that we're going to be talking about coming up that are way better than the first one. So I do like, some of the effects were some of the first time, obviously Tom Savini would, come up with some creative kills in there. But to me, it's just too few and far between. And it gets kind of boring while watching Alice walk around so much there toward the end. And then obviously at the very end, the reveal is cool and it's iconic, him coming out of the lake, but I just need more than that. If I'm going to go back and watch one now, it's going to be probably pretty low on my list. Let's see what somebody said here. Freddy Krueger in 3 is best. I actually cared for that girl. Yeah, part 3 is pretty much one of the better ones of those. And the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the prequel is better than the original. The intro was awesome. I was arguing with somebody the other day and told them that I've watched the Jessica Biel Texas Chainsaw Massacre so much.
2003.
Yeah, that is pretty damn good. I almost think that version of Leatherface is better than the Gunnar Hansen, but it had nothing to do with Gunnar himself. It was because of the way that they made the character so controlled by the family.
The family's better. I mean, maybe not better than the grandpa one, but the rest of the family is way scarier.
Yeah, the sheriff is awesome.
The scariest parts in Chainsaw Massacre 1 in 2003 is the family. That scene in 1 when the grandpa's fucking dead and they're trying to swing the hammer and hit her in the head, that was scary as shit, man.
Well, the sheriff is so
and then the sheriff in this one.
Just in that remake. But all right, so we don't want to digress too far. So what's your next one here? So we're on what? 12,
One.
11, 10, 9. So we're on what? You're 6?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Is number 1, like you just said. Now, I got a little higher because 1, I played the video game a lot. 2, I've met almost everybody from 1. And 3, I went to the actual facility and got a 6-hour tour of the camp, which is spot on to the game.
Oh,
I mean,
cool.
spot the fuck on. And the fact that in Vengeance, we reenacted that whole staircase to redo it. I met Lauren Marie Taylor and everybody that was in that scene that we redid, and we showed it to them. And I was there. We did a trivia, and I won the trivia between there. I was there, and there was 53 countries that represented us there. There's 288 people. It was crazy. You put the little pin where you were from. And they showed where the snake got killed. They showed where Kevin Bacon, the cot, and they had a picture. And then you went in where the rowboat was, where he jumped out. So I'm telling you, it's definitely biased to me, having done all that it moved it up a little. I probably would have had it where
but still, I mean, you just got it one spot higher. It's not too much. So.
Yeah, but it was iconic when you see all that, to realize what that started,
All right, so my number 6 is then Friday the 13th, the 2009. So, not too far away from yours. A lot of the same reasons you said. I do like Jason's look, and I love the fact, that he runs. And a lot of people say, well, Jason doesn't run. There's scenes in other movies that he runs. Yeah,
1 through 4 until he becomes Jason.
Yeah. Like you said, though, I remember in the theater, I didn't even realize that they hadn't shown a title card.
Yeah.
And so when he goes running after her with the machete, and you don't know whether he killed her or not.
Right.
And then he's, like you said, he's running, and he uses the overhead double hands to throw that axe. I was like, this guy's like almost like Leatherface in that remake. He's a fucking killing machine.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be hard to get away from him.
Yeah.
So I really love that. Like you said, a lot of the characters are boring, and I know they were trying to be over the top as far as wanted you to hate. I forget what's the douchebag's name. Stupendous, when he's talking about the tits. Whatever his name, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But I know they wanted you to hate him, and of course, yeah, everybody did. But I think it was like they were trying to pull a few of the the notable TV people as far as characters into that, just to get some people they didn't have to pay too much for, and that they would be able to be the face of it. So I think they did a little bit too much of that. It wasn't as creative, but I think they did a really good job of putting in key scenes from the the first couple films in there to make the pacing was really good.
That first 15 minutes is arguably some of the best in the history.
Exactly.
Of the
I love that.
When he steps on the bear trap, rips his skin off, and then she's cooking inside the bag.
Inside that bag, that's pretty awesome.
Man, that's pretty good right there.
Yeah, he said Jason X is my Gen X. All right, so
Number 5.
Yep.
Number 5 is the Friday 13th Part 7, The New Blood. It would be much higher if you had all the kills involved in there. I said one of the best was the opening for 2009. There is no, in my opinion, better. Vengeance 2 at the end is up there now for me, but there is no better last 15 minutes than the end of New Blood, when Jason and Tina go at it. And all those stunts that Kane does, he does like 10 of them in a row, are absolutely phenomenal. His face crack, the mask crack, revealing the best face ever, the best look ever. Kane, the meanest Jason ever. I mean, that movie, it's boring when you go back and watch it for the first like 3 quarters, but you love Tina, you're invested in Tina, the doctor's a dick, that works, and Jason is just unstoppable and unbelievable. I always used to get the VHS and fast forward to the last 15 minutes, and I would watch it again and again, and to me, that's what made me want to be Jason.
All right, so my next one is Friday the 13th Part 3, and I like Part 3 because obviously he gets his mask in there, but I don't know. There's something about the look of Jason in that movie that I don't 100% like, and I don't know why. His face, I think part of it was because going from, that's supposed to be like over a whole weekend, like what, 2, 3, and 4, and so what the hell happened to all his hair? I mean, he looks like a mountain man in the second one, and then I just thought the prosthetic they used on his face didn't look right for some reason, and I didn't like the whole part of her remembering him and that she might have thought she got raped by Jason.
Yeah.
That was a little off-putting to me.
Did you ever see the Stan Winston look that he had? The one where he looks like Nosferatu?
Yeah, I think I did, yeah.
That one's way better. I wish they went with that.
Yeah. So, and I don't like the ending. I was like, do you really have to pretend like that? I gotta, recreate what happened in the first movie. She would never even know what his fucking mother looked like.
Right.
So she's coming out dead out of the water. Like how would she, if she's trying to have, that's supposed to be a dream, how would she know what the sweater was? But so I was almost like, I was kind of really into the films back then, rewatching them over and over. So I would study that with me. Like something was just always off with part 3 with me.
Yeah.
And the characters are basically just cliches out of all horror movies too. So,
I'm going to blow your mind. So mine is 3. So my number 4 is 3. I'm going to blow your mind a little bit with the whole thing. The dream sequence never happened. The director talked about it. Everyone talked about it. So the dog is dead. So that sequence, when you see Jason break through the window with his hair, that's not real. So
yeah,
you never saw
I've
his
heard
hair.
that. Yeah.
So in 2, he had a shaved head. And you want to go further? In 3, when it first begins, and I forgot the name of the guy with the rabbit at the store with the girl. If you look, we talked about this 100 times on a podcast. Jason Brooks didn't believe me until I showed him. You had to pause it. If you pause it just right, he's sitting there with the Nosferatu makeup that Stan Winston made outside the clothesline, and he grabs that suit that he has for 3, and he has no hair. His head is shaved.
Yeah, you told me that. I just wish they had expanded
Yeah.
that and actually put it in there where everybody would have to not have to do, like you said,
Right.
freeze frame the thing and see it. I mean,
right. But if you go now, if you think about it, if 2 is the dream sequence, he never had hair. It would make sense. I don't know why they did it in the dream sequence like that, but
everybody just gets confused with those endings. Like I remember, back in the day, everybody was like, "Well, did he really come up out of the lake as a child at the end of the first one?" So I know, but they're so ambiguous about what really happens at the end of those movies. I think just casual fans, it just gets confusing, and then you got to listen to all that bullshit online when you go.
It's the
there,
genius
arguing
of them, though, because you keep talking about it.
Exactly. Right? I mean, it ended up being genius, but now it's to the point where 30 years later, however long it's been, it gets on my nerves a little bit. So
back to 3, a little outdated, doesn't age well. The weird 3D shit is weird. Shelley giving him the mask is cool. I used to be a bodybuilder. I used to have big traps, and I loved seeing him with the big traps like that.
That was cool.
Yeah, I love that look of him like that. It was weird when his face came off, but he's menacing. I mean, out of all the masks out there, for me, it's 3, the 3 clean, the 4, and the 7. Like, that's just the most iconic ones for me. So that 3 clean, like he had in the beginning, to me is just so iconic. And he was scary in 3. He was scary in 3.
All right, so we'll be at this would be my number 4? Yeah. So that's where I got Friday the 13th Part 7, New Blood. A lot of people probably put that lower on the list. You and I, obviously, anybody that's seen us on here talking, know that both of us love it, and you obviously made your own sequel to that. But I loved when Jason got reinvented as a zombie, if that's what you want to call him. It's almost then like, well, then you don't have to even guess whether he, how is he going to get killed, because he's already dead. But like the very first time that I saw her fight him and that mask crack open, I remember being in the theater and was like, holy shit, and just how amazing that was. And that's why this whole time, like I did that Jeffy Award, I was so waiting for that NECA figure to come out. That is such an iconic look. Everybody that I talk to, if they're not an uber fan of Friday the 13th, one of the things they bitch about is he's dead. Why is Kane Hodder like breathing so hard all the time? And I'm like, dude, it could just be the reflex of him and his brain. Why are you reading so much into it? It's a cool look. I love it. It's one of the first times you saw him get frustrated when she kept throwing shit at him and putting him through the floor and shooting him with nails. I love it, that part when he pulls that out of his head and he gets that look like, fuck this. I just love it when he does that. So to me, that was growing up. That was the one that I would always watch so much. So I really appreciate you for continuing that story, because I just fucking love that.
And we gave you the weed eater. We gave you the weed eater.
Exactly. That's one of my favorite weapons of all time. If anybody watches this, go back and look it up. I did some of my favorite kills that were actually, it had to be done by Jason, because I didn't want to put the stuff from his mother or the, Roy. But the weed eater kill, and I even included one of Peter. He's got a pretty epic weed eater kill, reusing that weapon in his Roseblood movie. So, like I said, I think 7 is
comedy at the end.
Exactly. Yeah, I know that was pretty awesome. And then they should watch some of your videos and stuff, interviews you've done, because you explain how you do all those effects or whatever. And
Thank you.
I watched recently you doing that, talking about how long it took to get it to where that bullet fell.
Oh, And we had to keep
and would
wiping the
stick
plexiglass.
without bouncing. Yeah.
And that plexiglass is homage to part 3 with the
Yep,
kill down the
looking
middle.
down.
That's why I wanted that shot.
So just to put a bow around that, I think that movie gets a little bit of disrespect because of the ending. It is stupid that the father comes up out of the lake and looks just like he did, but maybe it's the way she's seeing him, obviously. So, but other than that, I think it's a real fun movie to watch, and it's got such an iconic version of Jason that's why it's so high on my list.
So number 3 to me, third spot is one of the best stories, Friday the 13th Part 2. When I was young, I used to hate 2. I used to like, why does anybody like The Sack? And I like A Town That Dreaded Sundown. Both of them. The remake was good too. And Steve was smaller, and me being a bodybuilder guy. Yeah, real quick on the 80s horror. You know what? There's a huge error in that no one talks about. So when he does the handstand, Jason splits him down the middle, penis to neck, let's say, right? When he stuffs him up top, he's cut sideways.
That's
nobody
cool.
talks
That's
about
the kind of
that.
stuff you got to go back and you got to rewatch just to make sure.
Yeah. So
just not to interrupt you, but he says the kills in part 7 would have been better if it didn't get cut. Exactly. Somebody did a bootleg cut for me where they put the director with Beekler's had a VHS master. It was rough, but they edited that stuff back into the movie for me, and it looks a little rough, but I mean it would have made the movie flow so much better, and I think that movie would have got a lot more respect if they had left some of that gore in there.
So I'm still on 2, I think, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't like Steve because he was smaller, and I thought Jason's supposed to be big, and yada yada yada. But then when you go back and you get older and you watch it, man, it's a great story. 1 through 4 is a great story, and I thought it was really really scary when she's like, Paul, someone's in this fucking room, like it's fucking scary, I thought it was great. I love 2. Now when I go back and watch it now, I'm like, why didn't I like it? It was a great movie. Her pissing herself under the bed. Somebody fucking argued with me and said, no, that's the rat pissing. I said, are you fucking insane?
That much piss out of a rat?
That's bigger than the rat.
A rabbit or whatever.
Yeah,
There's no way they would have been that much.
No, I'm like, why didn't you understand? She's scared. I don't get how they don't get that.
Well, you look on her face, you can tell it's almost like in the look of a horrific embarrassment.
Right.
Well, so my number 3, were you done? I didn't want to interrupt you. Okay. Well, my number 3 is Friday 13 Part 2. So that's what I said. So I think I didn't give that as much respect like you when I was younger. It actually flows. It's got one of the better stories. And then they try to give the character some background, actually. I mean, you got the 2, Jenny coming in there and having the relationship with the guy that's running the camp.
Yeah, the Mickey Mouse girl, who's pretty nice.
Yeah. And it's got the campfire where they're explaining the lore. So, of anybody that, might not know, how important Jason is to the story and what happened. It's got some pretty good kills to it. I'm like you, I think at the beginning I didn't like Sackhead Jason as much, but over the years, I've really grown to like that look. And, I don't know. Like I said, I think she's one of the best final girls, and for once she felt like a legit actress,
right?
That was like in the movie. So the movie actually didn't just feel like a normal slasher. We don't care. We just want to pump in a bunch of kills in there. And then, like you said, it's got some pretty epic nudity in there too. For back in the day in the 80s, when you're watching that VHS tape got rewound a lot.
80s Horror Man said the wheelchair kill is that Steve Dash's favorite kill of all time.
Yeah, the wheelchair backwards down the stairs. I put that in the intro. That was one of mine because I was like, I remember when I was watching it back in the day, and I was like, holy shit! Not only did they kill the handicapped guy, but he got one of the most epic kills in the whole franchise.
Now,
to the face.
There's people online that talk about how the machete hit him on the wrong side, and they also talk about the guy hanging upside down from the rope was slit on the wrong side. It's not true. The fan went online and found the machete, the exact machete. That style of machete had the backside with a bevel on it to cut also. So you'd swing left and you'd swing right. So that machete was made to cut both ways. I was like, what? That just happened. Like a couple of years ago, someone found that. So I was like blown away by that.
Yeah, I had read that, and then it probably was somebody like quoting you or something. And then when you and I first talked, that was one of the things we talked about was it did bother me at first, but then when even if that, it's still those 2 kills are pretty iconic. Yeah. And I always would tell people, who cares if it's the wrong side? As powerful as Jason fucking is, he could have put that other side through that guy's face. It wouldn't have stopped him either way. But yeah, that is a pretty epic kill.
My number 2 is Part 6. And I've worked with so many people now on Part 6. I've acted in movies with Part 6. I've been in movies with Part 6. I love Part 6. The only, it's just not as scary as my other film, but 6 is, I mean, you talk about replayability. I mean, you could throw 6 in all the time. The music is great. Tommy Jarvis is great. Megan is great. The sheriff is great. The story is great. Jason's great. I don't like the beginning. That's not CJ Graham in the beginning in the woods. That was a different actor. I don't like that comedy of that. But I loved everything else in it. I mean, it was just the way CJ played him was so different. He was explaining to Jason how you just stiff all the time, flare your lats and be stiff but strong. And the way he walked, no one walks like him. If you go back and watch 6, first time doing it, first time stuntman, the sheriff being broken in half, all that stuff. But one final point, I think we talked about it. I used to go to Tom McLaughlin and everybody and CJ at cons and tell when I was little or younger, and tell them that there's a mistake with the propeller. And they're like, no, there isn't. I'm like, yeah, there is. In one scene, if you cut it just right, you couldn't do it with VHS, but you could do it with DVD. The damage was on the wrong side of the mask. And Tom's like, I never inverted the footage. I'm like, it's fucking there. And I showed him it. Now, 2 different places make that mask, and they call it the mistake mask. And I was calling it that for 25 years. I have it. I had for 25 fucking years in it. So just a little tidbit there.
All right. Well, we're down to the last 2 and we haven't talked about it. So I'll get into why, but my number 2 is Friday the 13th Part 4. Now, I will tell you, on any given Sunday, 1 and 2 might flop for me, because if I'm talking slasher, that's where the best slasher around is probably going to be 4. So I'll just tell you, that's one of the reasons it has to be at the top. I think it's pretty much the perfect slasher. Yeah. I mean, it's got everything in it you would want, but it's so well paced. And obviously now you got Crispin Glover, who went on to great things, and you get to see that epic dance of his. So it's got, and that one still has a little bit of humor thrown into it. Yeah. But that version of Jason, when I was younger, that was pretty scary with me. I mean, the scene, especially like when he's got him hanging up in the doorway and he just don't give a fuck and he just rips him down. I mean, that whole scene at the end and the chase and everything all the way up to the end is, when I was young, I was like, once I got to that point, it didn't matter what time of night it was. I just had to watch the whole ending. It's almost like you can't stop watching it. I love Tommy in that one. Obviously gets introduced. I really think they dropped the ball with that character. Introducing him like that. I wish they hadn't done. Had been able to use him better in Part 5. And I'm so glad that in Part 6, they were able to bring him back. And then obviously anybody out there that doesn't know, you get to see him come back in Vengeance 2, the fan film. Right. That's always been one of my favorite characters. But Part 4, I mean, it's pretty hard to beat. I mean, it's one of the best ones. It had to be 1 or 2. I think pretty much everybody chooses that as one of the top ones. It's pretty iconic.
Yeah. So Fall of Camp Blood is my 4 is my number 1. Yeah. And we did a movie, Fall of Camp Blood, where I actually killed fucking Jason in that. I thought Brent Edgett did a good job of Ted White. Not saying you could ever do Ted White, but I think his body style was more for Ted White for sure. R.I.P. Ted White was arguably one of the best Jasons of all time. It was scary as hell. I'm so glad you said that scene where he ripped him out. He had like the nails in him like Jesus, and he just rips him off the wall like that. Like nothing. That scared the shit out of me when I was a kid.
Exactly, me too.
I think also being a kid, you got with Tommy because I was around the same age, and like that scared the shit out of you more. You're like, what would you do if this monster's coming at you? There's only this girl here to protect you, and that's the last of the scary movies. Is Part 4. It's one of the most perfect movies for slashers, and it's the perfect ending of a 1 through 4 story for Friday the 13th. He was brutal. His look was phenomenal. And the best kill ever in all of the series is him dying on the machete, going down Tom Savini at his prime face. It's the best for me.
Yeah, I like practical effects, and that was one of the first movies that I tried to study how they did a lot of that stuff. So, splitting his hand open.
Yeah, he just looks at it.
Yeah, and
thank you, Andy,
and all of that stuff. Yeah, everybody knows Peter's a badass. So obviously the only one left is my number 1 is Friday 13th Part 6, Jason Lives, and it's for most reasons. Number 1, it was the very first one that I saw in theaters.
Okay.
And then, but I do like the whole concept, because I was going into it going, how are they going to bring him back to life? It sort of feels a little bit like a Universal Monsters type opening.
That's how he did it.
Yeah, I know. That's what back
Yeah.
in the day. That's what I was thinking, and I
Oh,
was like,
okay.
but and then now when you hear them talk about it, that's exactly what they wanted.
Yeah.
And so I don't. There's little things that bother me, like how does this fucking eyeball like still look so like he just went into the ground.
Yeah.
But I mean, I just like that they use a lot of those classic tropes from the classic horror movies, and that I do agree with you that Jason's a little stiff in there. But other than that, I do like the mask, and there's so a lot of iconic kills in there. It's also the first one where there's actually kids at the camp.
Yeah.
And so then you get to see where, Jason, I'm sitting there the first time I'm watching him, like, he's no way they're going to let him fucking kill a child.
How about
And
the
then I
girl's
just
name
like that
is
scene when
Nancy?
she's like, and he just stands over.
And her name is Nancy. And she
Yeah.
said she had a bad dream.
Exactly. I thought that was
That
cool.
was
So,
pretty
but
good.
they put all kinds of little nuggets in there like that about all the names of the roads and the names of the little stores and everything, about all the horror directors they named them after. So, it was like he had mad respect. It was one of the first meta movies as far as knowing what it was and
Right.
playing back to the audience. I was like, that shit came out way before Scream did.
Right.
So I don't think it gets enough credit for a lot of the things that it did and how good it was. So, but like I said, with that being a lot of my channels you see, and as you talk about 80s horror is nostalgia.
Right.
So 6, if I just want to watch a Friday the 13th movie, kind of laid back, I'll watch 6. If I really want a good, horror slasher, I'll watch 4. So sometimes they flip flop for me.
What did you think? I absolutely love what Jason did with Tommy, bringing back the spike from the cemetery.
Exactly.
So like what made Jason come to life is what
Is
killed
what
him at
killed
the
him.
end. I thought
Yeah.
that was so great, man.
See, now you
Yeah.
still, I was gonna, when I was jotting notes down, because I'm gonna I want to
sorry.
review that. That was one of the things I said. I liked how they brought it full circle with that.
Yeah.
But I've always liked him because I liked him, the actor. I loved him in Return of the Living Dead.
Oh, great.
And
Yeah.
I'm often wonder, like, I mean, why didn't the roles that he picked ended up being kind of iconic. So I really wish they had been able to, what do you know why they didn't continue on with that character after
don't.
part 6?
I don't know.
It was
No.
so stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, it was set up so well.
Right.
Can you imagine, even if they skipped a couple movies, of how maybe they could have had it where he was traumatized to know that Jason might have been back after he spent all that whole movie trying to kill him?
Right.
I just thought they dropped the ball with that.
The
But
Duke, if you think about it, the Duke is Tommy.
yeah, pretty much like a
Pretty
surrogate
much.
version of
Yeah.
that character.
Yeah.
Of everything he did. But yeah, well, I mean, I was actually pretty surprised. You and I were pretty close on a lot of these.
Yeah. Very close. Just like one
Yeah.
off. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of them flip flop back and forth.
Yeah.
So yeah, anybody that watches this now or later, I'd appreciate it. Put your rankings down below. Let us know,
Yeah.
or if you thought one of us was like way off on some of the stuff. Alfred must like Jason X. That is true. X, you could watch that during Christmas.
Yeah.
You
That was
know,
he actually came to Earth 2, right?
yeah.
Right.
So
Earth Part 2 is what I'm saying.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's cool. I appreciate everybody that might have watched us live. Like I said, if you watch this later, please do me a favor. Everybody drop a like on the video. I appreciate Peter coming by. So, like I said, like it. And then if you watch it later, put some comments down below. Like I said, do your rankings. I love listening to people's rankings and their reasoning why.
Me too.
And I thought it was pretty epic that you and I thought the same on a lot of these movies. So
Yeah. Well, we're
that's
close
probably
to,
why we
close
connected.
to the same age, right?
Yeah, I'm 51.
46. Yeah. Close.
Okay, well, it's pretty close.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, growing up in the age of 80s horror, I mean, I was really jazzed that they made so many horror movies in 2022. So it kind of made me.
This is the new age.
year.
I try to explain to people, this is the new age of the 80s. I mean, you
Yeah.
have video games coming out, Friday the 13th, the game, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the game, the Killer Clowns, the game. You have Scream coming back. You have so many horror people remaking originals and making their own now.
Yeah,
that
the
are just
fan
phenomenal.
films. And everything, yeah,
Horror is sexy again. It's back in. I mean, look at Wednesday on Netflix. That wouldn't have been a
Exactly.
success 20 years ago, I don't think.
Well, I was watching. Quentin Tarantino thinks this is like one of the worst ages of movie making right now
Because of
where
Marvel.
we're at.
You said because of Marvel. And
Well, I
stuff.
know, but
Yeah.
he didn't expand on that and like talk
Yeah.
about. I think you got X, Pearl, Barbarian, all those movies have come out. I mean, even I didn't like Smile that much, but at least it was something.
Yeah.
They tried to do something different with like some of the stuff.
How about that scene with like the monster and her mind's eating her and Smile?
Yeah.
That was fucking scary, man.
Yeah, exactly.
I was
So
like, wow.
I mean, but and then like you said, I mean, look at all the stuff that you've done in the last 2 years.
Plus fan films.
Exactly.
Like just that alone. I mean, it's horror is in right now for sure.
Well, also because of now the technology's there where, the capability of anybody that's got an idea, you don't have to just wait around or hope that somebody discovers you, whatever. I appreciate you guys. Kind of like Roseblood was almost at the point it kind of jazzed me back up to horror because at one point I didn't know what. I'm not saying I just talk about horror on this channel, but I do. It's a lot of the focus because that's what I grew up on. 80s horror is what I love. So, and
I try to tell people like it wasn't cool to like it when we were younger. You almost were an outcast.
Exactly. Yeah. His list was part 6, 7, 2, 4, 1. I'm assuming that's best to worst. He had part 6 was up there. Yeah, best to worst. And then Jason X and Goes to Hell. So his was pretty close to ours.
That's pretty close to ours too. Yeah.
Yeah, well, maybe a lot of the people that watch, my channel, we just all kind of got the main mindset right there. So I really appreciate it.
You'll see those guys once in a while. I hate to like knock them, but they'll have Jason X first and then number 8 third. And you're like, come on, like give me a break.
I wanted to answer this because I did mention it at the beginning in case what happened to my giveaway was my computer shit on me right before we got on here, and I didn't want Peter's got so much going on that out of mad respect for him, I didn't want to delay anything, and I wanted to get him on here. The video disappeared because I said I was going to basically lock the video so nobody else could comment on it. So I told people once we get off of here, I got the movies here. I'm going to come back and then do the giveaway. I just got to put the names on the prize wheel. So it'll be announced tonight. I was just a little bit later doing it than I planned, but I appreciate you asking about it.
Yeah. So when I get off, you're going to do it, right? Because I'll jump on and watch after.
Well, no, what I'm going to do is I need to put them on the wheel. I'm going to go ahead and end this, and that way I'll do it. It's its own separate thing. But hey, to remind everybody what you got going on before we get off of here, because we got a couple people that might be watching now that weren't on here when we were beginning. So
thanks. So I got a trilogy. I don't have a trilogy. I'm in a trilogy coming out. Jason Voorhees, where it's a multiverse of Michael, Jason, and Freddy, written by the guys at CCC Entertainment. Then I'm still working on behind the scenes of Roseblood, and I talked to Terry Kaiser. I'm sending him out a military outfit, and we're going to start working on Laugh. And Laugh is basically my dream come true. Try to make it right to the movie theaters kind of movie. It's nothing like a Terrifier. It's more like a Joker. So it's going to be like a few kills, but really psychological horror with a lot of. I'm trying to get some big names. I'll tell you off air one of them another time.
Okay.
But so that's the goal of that. And plus working full time and then doing a million other things and giveaways and Indiegogo for Rosebud's coming out again because so many people want that VHS and Blu-ray again. They told me to
I want one of them.
Yeah, so I'm gonna do that this weekend and that's it. And thanks so much for always having me and always supporting. I appreciate it.
No, thank you, man. Peter has supported me from the very beginning. And I think, like I said, it was because I was such a fan of Roseblood, and I probably chatted with him way too much more than he wanted to at the beginning. And I thought it was cool because it was shortly after that I started doing more of my YouTube channel, and it kind of just fell in line with that. We'll catch a little hell yeah, says Ken.
That's
Billy.
Ken Slate from My Name from Vengeance and the guy that was in the Fast Team.
Yeah.
Clint
Myers. I'm excited for Laugh. Yeah, I am too. I've been watching Peter mention that online and some of that. So yeah, I'm really jazzed about that too. So
I told the story to Terry for the first time, and he was like, "Really?"
That's
and I'm
cool.
like, "Yeah, this is what we're gonna do." And,
that'd be awesome. You got him involved, man.
Oh, he's gonna be the father. He's gonna be my father in the movie.
80 Horseman said thanks for liking his post on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Peter, it's Eric, by the way.
Oh, Eric. Yeah, I knew that name. What's up, buddy? Yeah.
Peter supports everybody as much as he can. He's one of the best guys. But
thanks, man.
I really appreciate being able to meet you. That's one of the cool things about the internet is you're able to catch some people that you probably would never meet in life. So I really appreciate all the support you've given me and the kind words, whether it be on air or off air, that you've given me too. So I think of you as a friend, man. So
Same here,
I really
man.
appreciate it. All right, everybody. So this is the great Peter Anthony, and he joined me tonight, and we ranked the Friday the 13th films. If you missed any of it, as soon as it ends, that's why I said I don't want to drag it out. I'll go ahead and end it, and that way it'll post. And like I said, I appreciate Peter, and then I'm going to cover the Vengeance 2 movie, and then probably Fall of Camp Blood, and anything that Peter does in the future. If he keeps me in the loop or whatever, we'll get him back on here and talk about all that stuff too. So I appreciate anybody that watched it. Anybody else, like I said, that comes back behind it, like it, and leave some comments. And until next time, boys and girls, this is JEFFMAN316 and the Mad Cuban Peter Anthony. And you guys be safe out there.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, Chief, ladies and gentlemen.